Hey, my lovely.
Hello, Emma. How are you? Looking gorgeous and all bright and bubbly today, as
Thank
ever.
you. Thank you. As do you with your glasses on.
Oh, I can see you. I have to give into the vanity, and I'd rather see you than not have them on.
How's this week been, this last week? I say that, and we chat before we come on air to do the podcast. We have a chat, and we catch up, don't we? Talk about what we've been up to, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
And this week we caught up at, was it 11? So we've been chatting already for an hour and 20 minutes.
It's been an awesome week. I mean, a lot of it, though, I think we talked about this, is I caught myself on some of the behaviors. I was kind of like being impatient about things and not being in the moment with things. And because I'm reading, and you're listening to, aren't you, Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk, it's actually made me reset a little bit and enjoy the things I'm doing for the sake of doing them and see the magic in them in the moment, rather than rushing ahead and trying to compare myself to this person, or who's looking at my posts, or all of this. It's just, actually, we lose so much of the pleasure and the fulfillment of what we're doing if we're constantly rushing ahead or comparing it, because what I do is unique to me, and what you do is unique to you, and what Jay Shetty does is unique to him. We don't have to be like anybody else. It's about being authentic, and that's where this week's subject comes in. Once we can be at peace with that, and we can be authentic and know ourselves, that's where self-belief comes in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we wanted to talk about this week, because I know it's something that I struggle with to this day. So many women struggle with, regardless of whether they're in a business, they want to start a business, they're work from home, they're mums, whatever it is. We have this struggle with our self-belief, because we all have things we want to achieve, right?
Yes,
we set ourselves goals, whether we write them down and we're aware of them. There's certain things we want to get done in the day. Done in the day, in the week, and in the month, years to come. But we struggle with believing we can actually get them done and taking the first step in the process, don't we?
Yeah, and I think, there's all those models out there about this is how it should be done, and and we think, okay, right, let's model that. And some of that can be really, really useful in getting you going, but you have to find your own rhythm and your own timeline with things and flow. And I think particularly as women, we're very much like, almost like the ocean, the waves come in and the waves go out, and there are times when we're really on point, and times when it's better for us to kind of reflect and think about, okay, what is it I'm doing? Is this working for me? What's going well? What could I change a little bit, rather than just that full on push. We've talked about masculine, feminine energy, or if you think about it in kind of the Chinese tradition, yin and yang. And it's different energy that has different flow, doesn't it?
Definitely. I know I've done a few questionnaires with women. I'm part of a networking group locally, and I reached out to them because I was asking them about their fears, just what keeps them up at night. I was really wanting to try and get an understanding of where they're struggling. And I know so many of them, they would class themselves as perfectionists. So it's like that they feel they have to get everything right, or once they set themselves a task, they have to do it, and it has to be perfect. I know we don't like using that word, but it has to be perfect for them to feel that they've done something, for them to reward themselves. And I honestly think, though, with this perfectionism, it actually stops us moving forwards. It actually stops us taking risks, because we're never going to have, it's like we're never necessarily going to get all our ducks in a row to be able to move forward.
And
there's always something missing.
Definitely, I've heard it said, perfection is a low standard, because you can never achieve it, and you can never achieve it consistently. So let's just do what we think is outstanding. Or let's aim towards that. But I don't know if I was talking to someone else. I think I've got my success planner, which I'm back using again, on the planner, off the planner, on the planner. But as long as we get back on. But I looked down at what I'd set myself, my weekly kind of goals in different areas, like exercise, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, you little dictator. I was being so hard on myself, like 7 days a week, I must exercise. Well, actually,
Yeah.
maybe that's not good for my body.
Yeah.
And this push, I think, you know, is really important for us to recognize, to create our own standard of success.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, if we're looking at people like Marie Forleo, who's a great inspiration, Tony Robbins, so many people that inspire, Jay Shetty, we've been talking about, I think they're wonderful to inspire us. But when we start comparing ourselves to them, that may not be what our life, our gift and purpose is. And,
Definitely.
you know, we don't want to compare ourselves to Jay Shetty's the biggest influencer in his field as a podcaster. Billions, I think, hasn't he got 1.2 billion?
I don't know, but
something
it's
like that.
a hell of a lot. Yeah.
But I don't want to look at that and think, oh, I should have achieved that. He's 20 years younger than me, and da 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 da.
No, definitely not.
Unhelpful, and that really undermines your self-belief.
Yes, definitely. You've got to set your own standards. And I think when you're setting them standards, they've got to be in line, like you said, with they've got to be in line with who you are and what's achievable for you. But like, I know with me recently with this whole morning routine, you know, the 5 a.m. club book that we've both read.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that. And after I read it, I was like, right, I was setting the alarm at 5 o'clock. I was getting up, I was doing, because he talks about doing your exercise first thing. So the first 20 minutes of your hour between 5 and 6 is exercise.
Yeah.
And I was pushing to do it. And I was exhausted. I was knackered. It just didn't sit. It just didn't work for me.
You've got 3 babies to run around after him.
I know, but like I'm going, why isn't this working for me? I should be able to do this. I've gone to bed early. There we go. So I think that's the most important thing, isn't it? It's like set your own standards and
totally
be kind to yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Because you beat yourself up straight off the bat, don't you?
Totally. And if we're not kind to ourselves, actually we're going to end up not being kind to other people either. You know, that's just the standard. How we treat ourselves is often how we treat other people.
So, definitely.
You know, with judgment particularly. I mean, you might think that and think, oh, well, no, I am always nice to people, even though I'm hard on myself. But yeah, there's probably something sneaking in like judgment or, you know, like, oh, they should be doing this or why are they doing that? But yeah. So self-belief, I'm going to ask you, I didn't talk to you about this before we started, but I'm going to ask, so forgive me for putting you on the spot.
Go for it.
Can you think of a time in your life where you did something that really increased your self-belief? Or more than one, what has helped you increase your self-belief?
Do you know what? One of the biggest things I did, it was social media. When I first started out in network marketing a few years back, social media was used to be social. You know, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't promoting anything. I wasn't trying to tell everybody what it was that I was doing. It was there to communicate and be friendly with other people. So when I first started out in network marketing, one of the first things they got us to do was obviously post about our products so that we can get our products out to our friends and family, show them what we're doing. And, you know, it's a great way. Social media is a great way to market your business. But I remember going to a training and they used to talk about doing live videos. This was when live videos were fairly new. You know, it just sort of come onto the Facebook platform. And they were talking about doing live videos. And predominantly they were talking about doing live videos on your profile, on your personal profile. Now, this is something that it's live videos can be hugely scary regardless, let alone putting yourself out there and doing them on your personal profile for everybody to see.
There's no retake or
and it's like I feel like I'm actually, I mean, obviously I was there to market my business, but it really felt like I was pushing myself on to people with what I was doing, and just so nerve-wracking. And I didn't have any belief in myself at the time. That's why I love personal development, because the more you work on yourself, the more you overcome the limiting beliefs, the more you can achieve, the more you can accomplish. But I didn't have any belief in myself at the time that I could do this. And what did I do? I just did it. I just literally went, right. Yeah. I've got to try and reframe my thinking, change my thinking, and let me just do it. And I remember initially I just started, I just got on, and I might have done a live of me and the kids being
Yeah.
out. I didn't
Nice.
necessarily speak about the business or the products or anything like that. I was like, right, let's just start off a bit softly first. Um, and it's funny because it went from me saying for a good couple of years, when I was in doing the lippy stuff, for a good couple of years, I was like, I'm not doing it on my profile. I don't feel it's right. No, no, no.
Mm-mm-mm.
And then it went to, actually, sod it, I've got to give this a try. And I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. I think you need to use, I know in like with Yellow Brick Roads, with what I do in anything that you're selling, be it a product or service, you've got to
Mm.
add your passion to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Mm.
it's different if you're getting on and you're saying, buy my product or buy my service. But if you're leading with value, it makes a
Mm-mm-mm.
massive difference. But this is something that you learn over time, isn't it? When you
Definitely.
first start out, you
Definitely.
don't, someone might say to you or encourage you, your manager, or if you've got a mentor, they might encourage you to do something.
Mm.
If it doesn't feel right to you, don't bloody do it. I mean,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
ended up doing that over time, and it
Yeah.
built belief in myself that not only I could go live, but actually I can do videos and I can talk about what I'm passionate about, and that kind of stuff. And now it's become a bit second nature to me. I don't really even think about it.
Mm.
Um, but it is in the doing. You
Yeah,
have to
totally. Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
get involved, face your fears, and do it,
Yes.
don't
Yes,
you?
absolutely. And I love that, or a little bit of kind of loving you up. And I love that
Mm,
about you, because you do put your money where your mouth is. You do take action.
mm,
And we both talked about this before we came on the podcast, that if you are passionate about something,
mm,
that will help you keep moving forward,
definitely.
even when things are challenging. And I think around self-belief, clarity is another massive thing. It's like, who do I think I am,
Mm,
and who do I want to be? In fact, I'm not normally kind of like celebrity, like wow, but I saw Jay Shetty interview Matthew McConaughey, who is
yes,
just
amazing.
a fabulous actor and just
Gorgeous. I think he's
gorgeous,
so good
easy on the
looking.
eye, and Texan,
Yeah.
so he's all that proper man. Anyway, right, let's get back
Yeah.
get back on track.
Yeah.
But he's just got a book come out called Green Lights, and when Jay was
Mm,
interviewing, he said, when you go through your kind of angsty periods in life, you think about things, don't you? You think about, how did I get into this position? What could I have done different? What did I do to,
mm,
but he
mm,
said often, the good stuff, we don't reflect about that. And he'd come through quite a challenging period, and he'd gone back over his journal and had all these notes. Oh dear diary, da da da. This is
mm.
what he says. And then he thought, hang on a minute, what if I journaled about all the good stuff?
Yeah,
And that, from there, he kind of recognized what things, what were good habits. We've talked about habits before. What things made him happy. What people, being around what people made him happy, and he
yeah,
just compared the two and decided to do more of the good stuff.
yeah,
And it sounds really simple, but unless we reflect, we're not aware. And
definitely. Yeah,
sometimes we just carry on with friends that, I think I didn't actually go to university at 21. I went later.
yeah,
One of the things they say, don't they, about university, you meet people initially, you bond because you're away from home and da da da, but sometimes those friends don't last out the 3 years at uni, because you're old enough to think, okay, you understand what that dynamic is. Whereas
mm,
sometimes you'll have friends that you've known since you were 6, and really you've got nothing in common, and you don't actually enjoy their company, but loyalty makes you stay in touch. And
mm,
actually, what would be wrong with just stepping away, not
mm,
cutting people off?
mm,
And yeah, he said, he was passionate about being an actor. He was training
mm,
to be a solicitor,
mm,
and his father was really keen on him becoming a solicitor, but he'd been doing some acting and he just loved it so
mm,
much.
mm,
um, and because of the way he'd been aware and measuring the things he liked and the things he didn't like, he thought it was worth giving it a punt and going to tell his
mm,
father that's what he wanted to do. And
mm,
his father just said, okay, well, if you're going to do it,
mm.
don't do it half-assed.
Go for it.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's the other thing as well, that where we struggle with our belief, when we're basing our past experiences on what we want to happen in the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So we're basing what we've lived through or what we've been through or things that we've experienced in the past. And we're going, well, that happened then. So this is going to happen now, or this
Yes,
is to come.
absolutely, absolutely.
And again, that's where we have to get over these limiting beliefs,
Yeah, totally.
um, of actually that has happened then,
Yeah,
but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be happening in the future.
absolutely,
You are in control of that, aren't you? You
totally.
are in control of your own mind. You're in control of your own thoughts.
Yeah,
And again, I think it all comes down to that. It all comes down to our thinking,
yeah.
and working on what's
Mm-mm-mm.
going on inside our subconscious mind.
Totally, totally. And I think, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast before, we're not negating the fact some people have had more supportive starts than others.
Yeah.
And I very much made my peace with my mum that raised me, but we had she died in April. 92, passed peacefully in her sleep, and
Oh,
very
love that.
grateful for that gift. Yeah,
Mm.
because with COVID and everything, it could have been very traumatic, and it wasn't. And I'm very grateful for that. We had never had, well, until the last few years, we had always had a very challenging relationship. So
Mm.
she was very critical and
Mm.
not supportive. She did not believe in me at all.
Mm.
So I kind of said, and not pull me, because I don't get me wrong, I've been there. I've had the pull me's, but I've done a lot of work to come through that. But I might have said, I started way back from the starting line. Some people
Yeah.
start starting line on the tape. I started way back. But I'm grateful for that, because I really had to develop self-belief.
Yes.
And she had her own challenges, and it would seem, she was never diagnosed, but it would seem that she had some kind of behavioral issues. But
Mm.
she was very critical and could be quite spiteful at times.
Yeah.
So you get to the point, and hopefully most people listening haven't had that experience, but if you have, you can relate to this. You get to the point where, whether someone loves you and they've been a supportive parent or partner, or whether they don't, you have to get to the point where you think, do I choose to believe what has been said about
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
Do I choose to believe that I can succeed in my goal, in my path? Or
Mm.
are you going to let other people's external events dictate who you're going to be? And
Love
yeah,
that, Felicity.
well,
I
school of
love
hard
that.
knocks. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love you sharing that, because it is just saying deciding, it's all, we all get to decide, don't we? We all
Yeah,
get to make that decision.
yeah, yeah.
And what you've just said in that, has shone out to me, is the fact that it starts with us. It starts
It
with
does.
you.
Yeah,
It starts with you, and it
yeah,
starts with you making that decision.
yeah,
Nobody else can make that for you. And
yeah.
regardless of, like you've said, trauma, past experiences, negative thinking,
Mm-mm-mm.
it can stop, and you can get better. You just
Yeah,
need to
totally,
decide that that's
totally,
what you're going to
totally.
do,
Absolutely. And I
and
was,
understand it starts with you,
yeah,
nobody else.
absolutely. And I was very,
Love that.
very grateful when I first started in my personal development kind of journey. I had a brilliant coach, and I was still very embroiled in the story of, my mum doesn't support me and
Mm.
she's mean. And, I was
Mm.
40, I think, by then.
Mm.
So, it'd been a lifelong story, and she favors my sister and all of this. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy and it was painful, but I was so grateful to my wonderful coach, who, instead of letting me get involved, she listened. But when
Mm.
it was starting to head towards the pity party, she elegantly stopped me in my tracks and said, "Okay, Felicity, what did you learn from that?"
Yes, I was just going to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
learn so much from those
yes,
negative
absolutely,
experiences, don't
absolutely,
you? You
yeah,
learn so much. Like,
yeah,
what's it taught you?
yeah, totally. And
Um,
some of the things I've, no disrespect to my mum, I've learned what I didn't want to be. I learned
yes.
who I do want to be. I've learned that I can believe in myself when nobody else does. And and really it is a gift, because if your mother doesn't believe in you,
Mm.
really,
Mm.
who's going to be, more of a challenge than that? Your boss doesn't
Yeah.
believe in you. Well, hey,
Yeah.
so what? But my mum, it was never malicious. We're all doing the best we can with what we've got from where we are,
Definitely.
haven't we?
Yeah.
But
And
it, did strengthen my self-belief in that, okay, I'm going to create this life. And, you know, step by step, I didn't have this huge, clear plan of who I was going to be and what I was going to create. But I certainly knew I was going to create a life where I was happy, and that I was going to be nice to myself and good to myself and do the thing and believe in myself to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And like you say, and the moral of that story, which you summed it up perfectly, is you have to believe in you, don't you? You have to believe in yourself.
Totally. Totally.
And it's just those little things. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I've got no belief in myself, where can I start? Where do they start? I mean, I suppose when I think, where did I start? I started trying to get inspired by other people, watching what other people are doing, and feeling inspired and feeling motivated. So it was
Totally.
sort of elevating my energy, my frequency. So I was watching and listening, and it was making me feel good.
Absolutely.
So getting inspired by other people. And then another thing is reflecting back on things that you've experienced or your past achievements where you have accomplished something. Because another thing us women tend to do is we beat ourselves up at all the things we haven't accomplished rather than focusing on all the stuff that we have accomplished.
Absolutely. So, and while I was still kind of wobbly around my self-esteem, I made a decision that anytime anyone said something nice about me, you know, and I'm sure a lot of women can relate to this, the first time someone says something nice to you, our first reaction is to negate it or deflect it. Oh, I love your dress. Oh, this old thing. Or, it's only prime art. Or oh yes, well, anybody would have done that. Well, actually, you're training your mind that it's not important. What you've done isn't important, and you're not important. So I first of all learned to have the grace to say thank you, and just
that simple word.
Thank you. And then anytime anyone was nice to me, and that I would write down the word that they said, I was confident, or I was caring, or I was kind. I wrote it all down, and on a day where I felt bad, I would go back and read through the book. And it might sound really silly, but you know, that you talked about this, then your unconscious mind, you think, I'm a good person, da da da. I mean, if somebody had said to me when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I had low self-esteem, I would have said, don't be ridiculous. But the reality of it was, although I had a good facade, I didn't have good self-esteem, and I allowed people to treat me, take me for granted and treat me badly, and I would just put up with it because on one level I just didn't think I deserved any different. And it's feeding that, just constantly feeding the beliefs that we are good enough and that we can achieve and that we're worth believing in, more than we feed the other stuff. And unfortunately we feed the other stuff unconsciously because it's on the media all the time. It's what we've been told as a kid,
created that pattern.
So we need to interrupt that pattern and start feeding. There's a lovely, is it a Navajo story saying, there's two wolves that live inside us, a good wolf and a bad wolf. One's lust, envy, competition, jealousy, greed, and the other one's compassion, love, peace, generosity. And the grandson says to his grandfather who's telling him the story, so and the wolves are fighting all the time, which wolf wins? And grandfather says, it's the wolf that you feed. And we need to learn to feed that self-belief. We need to learn to feed that self-esteem, don't we?
Definitely, ridding those negative thoughts that we have. Because I think another thing a lot of us do is we feel we're missing something, don't we? Women look outside at other people and they see them achieving, or they see their success, or they see the belief that they have in themselves, or they see the confidence that they have in themselves. And they sometimes feel that everyone else has got this stuff and I haven't got it.
Well, I think men do, men have more bravado about it. And I think, part of that is masculine energy, hunter, I'm going to win this. In fact, I was kind of thinking of my friend Lou, who's a brilliant artist. We were talking about the pandemic and da 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 da, and he was saying the other day, well, I think I might start up a rebellion. I reckon I could get a few 100,000 followers. And I didn't interrupt him because he was in mid-rant, and that he can be like that. And I was thinking, no, you couldn't. You're so annoying at times. But he's so confident about that. Whereas a woman,
Yeah.
most women would never say
No.
that, would they? They'd be like, oh,
No.
well, I wonder if I could do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can I?
can I
It
have
is.
permission to do it? Because again, that's
Yes.
how we're
Validation.
conditioned. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Um,
we're going to be talking about that next week about
yes.
validation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, I know for myself, it's the stories that we're telling ourselves, isn't it? So
Mm.
something I have my morning routine. I don't get up at 5 o'clock anymore.
Yay!
I get up at 6, but
Absolutely.
I
No,
but
that's
6 is
good
good,
enough. Yeah.
and I've been loving it this last couple of weeks now. I make sure I get to bed at a good time. I get up at 6, and one of the first things I do when I get up, still in my dressing gown, I come in with my glass of water, sit in on my sofa in the office, and I go through some affirmations.
Lovely.
And I can't
Lovely.
tell you how impactful this has been
Yeah.
when I do it. If I like, I had one day off, I think it was last Wednesday, where I didn't get up. The kids had been up and it was just a bit tired, but
Mm.
it's amazing how it just, it's not tricking your mind at all, but it's amazing when you affirm something and you really affirm it, and you don't just affirm what you're saying, but you visualize. So I affirm what I'm saying, I
Mm.
visualize it,
Mm.
but then I feel it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So
the
I
emotion
really,
is the difference,
the
isn't
emotion, that's it, that's what
it?
it's like, it cements it. So then I
Yes.
feel it. So if I'm saying I am confident, or I've got a list of them, I am capable, I am enough, I am courageous, whatever it may
Mm.
be,
Beautiful.
that works. It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
does
yeah.
work if you're doing it consistently
Absolutely.
and you're visualizing it and you're feeling
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
to help you overcome those negative thoughts that you have
Definitely,
running inside your
definitely.
mind.
And you're not tricking your brain, you're reconditioning your
You're
neural
reconditioning it
pathways, aren't you, from a
totally. Yeah.
neuroscience point of view? Do you do it in front of the mirror so that you can see yourself as ever?
So yeah, I do initially when I come in, because I just turn my little salt lamp on, so it's just got a
Mm-hmm.
lovely glow. So initially I spend the first probably hour doing affirmations. I've been doing a bit of meditation, and I've been doing my Wim Hof breathing, which is
Yeah, nice.
amazing.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
got
yeah.
the app. I would highly recommend you download it. It's got the breathing on there, and it's fantastic. So
Okay.
I do that. But then what I do is I'm part of a regular class, like a exercise class,
Mm-hmm.
on a it's 3 days during the week at 7 o'clock. So
Mm-hmm.
what I then do is, when I'm working out doing my exercise, so I'm moving my body, so I've sort of got the physiology there as
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
I read them out to myself, and I look in them.
Nice.
And it's
Nice.
honest to God, Felicity, when I come out of doing that,
Mm.
8 o'clock, go in, have a bit of a hot cold shower, I feel I am ready to go. It's
Yay.
amazing.
No,
So
that's
it just,
wonderful.
yeah, and it just goes to show, like, this whole, like you were saying earlier, with that masculine push, push, push. Don't get me wrong, I'm quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm pushing all of the time, and I
Mm.
want to get to that next step. I have big
Mm-hmm.
goals,
Mm-hmm.
huge goals, and I act on what it is that I want to achieve.
Yes, absolutely.
But with this morning routine that I've created, it works in line with me, and
Yeah, yeah,
it
totally.
works in line
Totally.
with what works for me. And I think that's
Yeah,
the most important thing when it comes to your beliefs or things that you want to achieve. It's got to be in line with your values. And we
absolutely.
spoke before, when it comes to business, it's got to be in line with your why. Why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Because you may struggle to believe in it if it's not in line with who you are.
totally. And we talked a little bit about that belief is so important. I was very fortunate to interview Aviva Wittenberg Cox, who's one of the pioneers of gender balancing in globally. So her company 21st. I interviewed her last week, and I asked, one of the questions I asked was, what were some of the challenges? And she said, because she was a pioneer in that area, talking about being gender bilingual and gender balancing instead of, equality of 50-50. She's talking about getting the right balance. She said actually it was a lonely path
Mm,
initially when she set out. So she really had to believe in herself
mm.
and believe in what she was doing
What she
to
was
stay the
creating,
course. Yeah, because
definitely.
and the thing is, when you find your passion, it's easier. not easy, but it's easier to do that, isn't it?
Definitely. When you start asking yourselves those questions and you open up those values and the things
Mm.
that real have like meaning to you, that's when that's when that passion sort of comes to the forefront.
Yes.
And then it's having that belief to go, right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna
Yeah.
start moving forwards. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So self-talk is so important. How we talk to
Definitely.
ourselves is so important.
Absolutely. I've also in the past done things where I've recorded affirmations on my iPhone and then listened to my own voice. And that's a bit freaky at first. You're like, oh, but again, it just embeds it from every level, doesn't it?
Yes, there's a fantastic app, you saying that, called Think Up. And I do use this sometimes before I go to bed. So it's an app called Think Up. And you do exactly that. You can list as many affirmations on there as you want. There's a short meditation at the beginning. And if you set the timer for your affirmations, there's another meditation, a short meditation at the end. But you can literally pop your earphones in and you can hear yourself. So your subconscious can actually hear your voice talking in a positive way about, what you are. I am strong. I am courageous. I am, I am healthy.
So effective, and it sounds so simple, but it's so effective and so easy to do, isn't it? So it's a really great, affirmations are a really great start for changing how you see yourself and your self-belief.
Definitely. So let's just recap. So realizing it starts with you. What else do we say? Ridding negative beliefs. You can look at affirmations if you don't already do so. Check them out. Get inspired. Reflect upon past accomplishments, what you've achieved in the past. So you're reminding yourself of the success that you actually have had, and the fears that you have overcome. And that's the last one, facing your fears and actually just going for it.
Doing it.
And doing it. It's taking action, isn't it? It's taking action, definitely.
And as we've always said, that action might just be one thing. It might be starting with baby steps, but taking action, it creates that momentum to keep you moving forward.
Yeah, and saying that, you're saying it's just that one thing, starting with baby steps. That's the best way to do it, is to start with baby steps. Because otherwise, again, I think we overwhelm ourselves when we look at, when we focus on the big dream, and you have to have that big dream. But when we focus on the bigger picture, we're going, oh my God, there's all of this stuff that we need to achieve before we can get there. So if you can really break it down to, okay, what's my next right move? What's the next thing I need to do today that's going to get me one step closer? Because it's unbelievable over time, when you look back 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years, how much you've achieved just by focusing on the next thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you'll look back, won't you, and think, hang on a minute. I mean, I'm really, so far this year, it's been such a weird year, as we know. I look back on some of the things that I've set out to do and what I've accomplished. I'm actually, go girl, you're doing good.
Doing amazing. Totally. Yeah. So what's our inspiring story today?
Oh, inspiring story, another documentary called The Biggest Little Farm, and it's just the most wonderful story about a couple that get 200 acres, did we say?
We said 200,
200 acres just outside.
It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yes, it's on Netflix in it's in Southern California, and they decide, instead of following the modern way of farming, i.e. this farm just produces tomatoes, this farm just does this, they decided to go back to the old way of farming. They were mentored by someone who supported them. So they grew a variety of crops, they kept chickens and things like that. But they were really focused on creating this beautiful, sustainable ecosystem. Amazing. And it's a wonderful story, but it took them 12 years for the farm to actually find its level and balance out. I mean, they had times where they planted crops and then gophers had turned up and eaten all the gophers, and they wanted to poison the gophers, but their mentor was like, no, this is all part of the,
part of the process.
It will find its balance. And even though it took 12 years, oh my goodness, what they created was so beautiful.
That's amazing.
Very true. It did find its balance. And, like the foxes turned up to,
oh my God.
And they ate the gophers, which kept the gophers down. And it was just this whole balance of nature. It was just, it is such an inspiring story. And I've never been one for documentaries really, but this story is so, oh, I felt like I'd watched a blockbuster movie at the end of it. It had your
Oh, I'm gonna
eyes, your
watch that.
nose. It was wonderful.
Oh my goodness, I'm definitely going to watch that. And I think that's talking about it taking 12 years. It's always the long game, isn't it?
It is
You
the long
have to be
game.
in it and you have to stick
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Um,
If you want quality, then you've got to
yeah,
go deep. So
you've got to go deep.
yeah.
You've got to believe in yourself, learn from your mistakes, and you can get it
Yeah.
done. No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, yes, I was just going to very quickly say, you know, we talked before we got on the podcast. I've really feel like I've come into my sweet spot now with my business, but I've been running it for 10 years. It's taken me this long, and I don't, looking back at times, I would have been like, oh my God, that was a mistake, that was a failure. No, it wasn't. It was all part of the journey and all part of my learning, and helped me to get that clarity and get that understanding of this is what I do, and I do it well, and I love it. So
Oh my God, I love you. I love you.
it's totally mutual.
I'm giving you a huge hug.
Thank you. Virtual hug.
Virtual hug.
No bubble. I need all the virtual hugs.
Oh my God, you've just made my heart's like it's like bursting. I love that. And that's just, and that is for me so inspiring, because, you know, I've been at this maybe 18 months, a couple of years. And I was playing with it at the beginning. It was a bit more of I felt like it was a hobby. I've probably been taking it seriously this year. And there's days when I doubt, and there's days when I have belief in, I've got a purpose. I know what I'm trying to create.
Yeah.
But there's days when I'm not feeling it, and there's days when I have no belief, and there's days when I'm like doubting myself, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm procrastinating, and I'm bloody everything. And then I hear something like that, and you've been working at it for 10 years and you're still going, and you've got to that point now where you've found, like you say, your sweet spot, exactly where it is that you need to be. And you've got that vision for the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's hugely inspiring to everybody listening. So thanks for that, babes.
Thank you. Well, it's been another it's just great for us to have an opportunity.
Love having a chat with you. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Love it too. And love you, Em. And
you, babes.
Next week we're going to do
validation. You touched on that. I just think that is another big one. Always looking outside for people to tell us that it's okay to move forwards. We're going to stop that one. We've got to knock that in the bud.
Indeed. All right, my lovely, you have a great week, and we'll catch up very, very soon.
Take care, darling. See you later. Bye.